I would like to welcome back today a guest that was on our show a year ago. He has gotten so many hits. He spoke about things that were going to happen, and a lot of them have happened. So we want to talk to him again. He's the founder of SkyBridge Capital, a published author, and a podcast host. Let's welcome Anthony Scaramucci back to the Miller Report. Thank you, Anthony. Thanks for coming back.
It's great to be back. It's actually very flattering to be back. So thank you, Suzanne.
You know, before we get into everything, you started to say that you're in a lot of the taxis, and here I am in the taxis. You can't go a street without listening to my melodious voice. But how are you seeing New York?
Better. I think New York is better. On the margin, it's better. People don't realize how many cranes are up and running here, even at the peak of Miami's crane operation. Miami's a little bit of a swoon right now, but we were still 5 times the activity in a place like Miami. I think New York is coming back. There are more cops on the street. I feel like these subways are. I'm still somebody that goes into the subways. I think they're a little better. I personally like the congestion pricing. I don't know if that's good for business or not.
I love it. I love it.
Okay,
I could open my window. It feels great.
Okay, yeah. So you'd have to give me an opinion on congestion pricing, but I do think it works for the city. I think congestion pricing, and again, I've had my issues with Governor Hochul, but I think congestion pricing is her Mayor Bloomberg. We're not going to smoke in the restaurant moments. Everyone said, "Oh, you can't do that. You'll ruin all these restaurants." It turned out it was better for the restaurants to go into a non-smoking restaurant. In fact, 40, 50 other cities adopted it. So I do like it. I think it is helping the city. I think it's cleaning up the city. And so, yeah, but I'm a bull on the city, you know, and I have 3 adult children that live in this city, and 2 of which are buying property in the city right now. They're in signed contracts to buy property. So
that's great.
So, yeah, I'm a big believer in New York. And by the way, I'm like you. You know what I love about you? Okay, we're not leaving. Okay, like I told Spike, I told Andrew Cuomo, Spike Lee. It's people like you, me, Suzanne Miller. We're shutting the lights out on this city. We ain't going anywhere.
I'm not going to Florida.
Right.
I don't even like the sun.
Me either, Suzanne, because this is my home.
Yeah.
And so I'm a loyal person, and I'm going to be right here to the end. And so I'm working with Andrew. I'd like to see him become the mayor. I like Eric Adams. I have nothing against Eric. I gave Eric money, but I would like to see a boost to the businesses. I'd like to see a boost to the friendliness, the cleanliness of the city, and I think Andrew could provide that.
We're going to get into the local politics in a minute, but let's stay on to one of the things we talked about when you were on. We talked about protectionism, and you were very concerned about the state of the world if we become just this small protectors, and this happened, and we're no longer global. That was a big issue of yours. What are your feelings right now about this whole America First message that Donald Trump is doing and the tariffs? What are your thoughts about all of this?
Okay, so I want to be objective because I think it's fair. I think the problem the president has is he identifies something that is true, and then the response to it sometimes through policy is bad. So let me just go to something that he did that I think worked. He identifies something that is true. People are pouring over the border. If you're going to have a welfare state, and the U.S. is a welfare state, you have to control your border, because otherwise people will come over the border. It's just market forces, and it'll wreck the jobs market. It'll have deleterious effects on your citizens. And so, and we saw some of that migration issue hit New York pretty hard over the last 2 years. So President Trump identifies the problem. He's now figured out a way to protect the border. Border crossings are way down. Migration is way down. It's going to be very, very good for the Americans long term. We evacuated our manufacturing centers through NAFTA. We lost 65,000 factories over 32 years. It's been a bad thing for the country. It's hurt middle class and lower income living standards. Mr. Trump has identified that. It's absolutely correct. But now he wants to try to regain that through tariffing other countries, thinking that that would incentivize those other countries to bring their manufacturing back to the U.S. That's a failed and flawed strategy that will not work. And the reason that will not work is that we're in a way more globalized society now. We are in a society that is seeking the lower cost of development and manufacturing. And whether you like it or not, and some people don't like it, we transitioned the United States into more of a service economy, and a result of which you can't go back the way Trump is suggesting. You could create enterprise zones. I don't know if you remember Jack Kemp, but we could create enterprise zones and say you'll have no taxes for 15 years if you build your factory here. And that would add to more jobs. That would create more people. But by tariffing, the Chinese are ready for it. The Canadians are ready for it. The EU is ready for it. And all it will do is it'll cause capital flight from the country, and it'll cause people around the world to lose confidence in the primacy of the U.S. dollar. It'll cause people around the world to lose faith in the legal system, the predictability of our legal system. The reason why foreigners love this country, love to invest in this country, they believe their money is safe here. If you have some arbitrary or capricious ruler that is doing things that are zigging and zagging, I think it's really bad. And I said that to you a year ago.
You did.
And the markets are saying that to you now. Mr. Trump started this, President Trump started this on April 2nd. We are 21 days into it, I believe. I don't think it's, it's basically, it's approximately 2 Scaramucci's. Scaramucci's being 11-day time units. And the market has spoken. The market has said to Mr. Trump, the yield on the 10-year is going to go up, not down. You've evacuated $10 trillion of value from the stock market, and $14 trillion of global equities have been evacuated. And so we're seeing him now pull back from this strategy. I think the pressure of the markets, also what he said about Jerome Powell, creates instability. And by the way, I'll just point this out before you ask another question. Suzanne, the London market is up. Their economy is worse than ours. The DAX, the German market, is up. Economy is worse than ours. And that has to do with the expectations. Capital is migrating away from the United States because these strategies do not work in the 21st century. And so hopefully he'll reverse course on these. But if he doesn't, it'll be very painful and the irony is the people that voted for Donald Trump, the lower and middle income people that support him, they'll be hurt most by this because all tariffs is a regressive consumption tax. It hurts the consumer, hurts the lower middle income family more than anybody else.
Just staying on that, do you think that, he's already pulled back on the tariffs in Europe. Do you think that the whole concept was to tax China and this is just all smoke and mirrors? Was that his intention?
Well, how are you going to tax China, though? This isn't really tax.
Talk about the tariffs on China.
Okay, but again, remember, the tariffs are paid by the American consumer. So if the goods are coming into the United States, they're not paid by the Chinese. They're paid here in the port by the American consumer. There's a customs officer that says, Suzanne, you want that product that was made in China? Yes, I do. Okay, Mr. Trump is applying a 145% tariff on it now. So that Nike sneaker that was made in China, we were selling it for $200. We're now going to sell it for $450. Do you want the sneaker? Well, what do you mean? I'm paying it? Yes, you're paying it. The Chinese are not paying it. Okay, and this is what he did. He's telling people that the Chinese are paying. They're not paying it. They're laughing at him. Okay, and that's what they did.
Okay, they were ripping us off for a long time, but let's move forward on
separate. That. Wait a minute, Suzanne, is a separate conversation. The trade system was overly favored to China because we allowed them to come into the World Trade Organization as an emerging market. And so let's just explain to your viewers and listeners what they did. We allowed them to ship goods to our country relatively unfettered by tariffs. We allowed them to have tariffs on our goods. So when we went to go ship goods to them, they were impeded by higher prices at the port. So what Mr. Trump is saying, see, again, as I pointed out in the beginning, he's identifying a problem. He identified the problem at the border. He came up with great policies, and he stopped the crossings at the border. But what you can't do now, we got that wrong. He is absolutely correct. We set up an unfair, reciprocal, not reciprocal system with the Chinese. And if you want to say that they were ripping us off, I accept that. But the way to get them to stop ripping us off is not putting up a reciprocal tariff.
How would you do it?
you would go to these manufacturers and you'd say, hey, you're an American company, Nike, how are you? Great. We would like you to build that factory somewhere in the U.S., and we're going to incentivize you to do it through the tax code.
How are we going to get laborers to? Who's going to work in
well,
these
that's a
factories
separate,
in the United States?
Okay, well, Suzanne, that's a separate topic. So now you're asking me something metaphysically. I don't even want that for my country. I think we've advanced as a civilization where I don't want that. I'm just responding to what Mr. Trump is saying. Mr. Trump is saying the Chinese have ripped us off. I'm saying, okay, that's fine. How do you want to resolve it? You want to build a factory here and put 14-year-olds in the factory like they do in China? I don't want to do that. Okay, I would rather the money go into information services, the cloud, the blockchain, artificial intelligent technologies that will make the country way more productive and will make our lower middle income people way richer than create factories here. But when you're saying the Chinese are ripping us off, I accept that the system was unfairly skewed towards them. Okay, but what you can't do is ramp up your tariffs on them because you're consuming from them. If you want these goods, and China is the Saudi Arabia of manufacturing, if you want these goods, you have to trade with them. If you put up a 145% barrier to trade, you're going to stop the trade. Your country and their country is going to go into a recession. But let me tell you about Americans. Americans don't like recessions. The Chinese, they have no problem. You want to starve them? They got starved by Mao in the 1960s. No problem. You want to fight with the Chinese? They will wait until they're a 5,000-year-old civilization. We're a 250-year-old country. They'll wait it out.
They'll cancel our contracts with Boeing.
That's what they'll do. I don't want that. Let's come up with a more reasonable, more rational policy. That's all I'm saying.
I got it.
He's right, but he's using the wrong policy.
Well, hopefully there'll be some place of meeting of the minds here. Let's move on to immigration. So everybody was talking about immigration, and now that there is a...
How's this going so far, though? We're okay? Because we're off of the WABC talking points of like some of the loons that I listened to on WABC.
We absolutely...
okay?
We need middle of the road here.
All right, yeah, because you got some lunatics. I listen to WABC. I'm like, this guy doesn't even know what he's talking about. I mean, like Sid. I mean, is Sid okay?
We love Sid. We love Sid. Don't say anything bad about my Sid.
I'm not saying bad. I just probably need some blood pressure medication at this point. I listen to him.
Listen,
I keep going.
Okay, well, Sid stands up for the Jews, and I'm a Landsman, so we got to love Sid.
I got no problem with that. I'm a Zionist too. Go ahead.
All right, let's talk
Remember,
about.
I'm Italian from Long Island. I've been to more bar mitzvahs than I've been to christenings. Okay, so I'm with you guys. All right, go ahead.
Okay, let's switch over to the immigration policy. So now that we have all these executive orders, you're going to love this question. We have executive orders on tariffs. We've got executive orders on immigration. Has the Congress just been neutered? Are we ever going to have a real policy that's actually law, or is it all going to be executive orders?
Such a great question. And so the short answer to the question is the Congress has been neutered, and they neutered themselves. It actually started during the Vietnam War. Because they were losing elections because people would go to them, Mr. Congressman, you made the decision to go to war. My son got killed. You're voted out of office. So the Congress ceded a lot of their authority, war-making authority, to the American president. So what they basically said to the American president, if it's an emergency situation, you have emergency discretionary powers. And so Trump has declared an emergency. Okay, and so he has an emergency situation. The tariffs have usually been in the auspices of the Congress. But in an emergency situation, we can go to war in Afghanistan without a vote of the Congress. In an emergency situation, we can put on the tariffs the way the president sees fit. And these guys are afraid to lose an election. And they're also, Trump is a very powerful political figure. You can like or dislike him, but he's a very influential, very prejudiced political figure, and they don't want to go up against him. And so as a result of which, they've lost a lot of power. Lyndon Johnson, who was the master of the Senate, Lyndon Johnson, before he became president, was probably the most powerful senator that we had in the modern era. He'd be rolling in his grave right now. He'd be like, there's no way you could allow this to happen.
So when will this change?
I don't know. You got to tell me. Is John Thune a guy that would stand up to Donald Trump? Is Mitch McConnell wasn't a guy that would stand up to Donald Trump? Is John Thune a guy? If you tell me that these guys are going to stand up to Donald Trump, they could pick up the phone and say, hey, Mr. President, we don't like what's going on. We're going to caucus with Schumer. We're going to move 5 or 10 votes over there, and we're going to pass legislation to take tariff control back from you. Do you know any of those guys that are willing to do that?
I can't say I do.
Okay, I can't say I do either. So, but you're asking a really good question, and that's what happened.
Yeah. So let's move on to one of your favorite topics, which we're both native New Yorkers, and I do want to talk about local politics and the mayoral race that's coming on. And I tell us who you're supporting. You started to tell us why you're supporting who you are and what you see.
Well, I'm a supporter of Andrew. I gave money to his PAC, which was well documented in the Post. I gave money to his campaign. I've raised money for him. I've known Andrew most of my adult life. His father was close with my uncle, the former governor, Governor Mario Cuomo. And I think Andrew is a smarter, wiser, more psychologically minded person today. And I think he has the skill set to revitalize the city. And I don't dislike Eric Adams. I like him. I think he's done generally an okay job. But I think we need more shock therapy in the city. I think the hard left, and frankly, some of these people are pro-Hamas, if you want me to be so brutally honest, the hard left pro-Hamas wing of the Democratic Party, I think we need to have a formidable fighter to go up against those people. And I think Andrew represents that. I think he's a tougher guy, and I know him well, and I would like to see him be the mayor. If Mayor Adams gets reelected, I certainly will support Eric. I think he's a very, he's a good person. But I mean, I'm closer to Andrew. These things are political, but they're also sometimes personal, Suzanne.
So I haven't really heard Andrew on many stations or really talk about some of the key issues, like the things that, are in his background that people are concerned about. Can you answer any of those questions for him? Can you answer anything about the bail reform and what his position is now? I'd love to know what you know.
Well, I mean, it would be impossible for me to speak for him, but I think that most people that are moderates have concluded that the bail reform did not work. I think that the good intention of trying to help somebody that's going in the wrong direction not end up in a jail, where you end up, once you're in jail, excuse me, you get that high recidivism. I understand the good intention of that. But somebody like Bill Bratton, who's been on your air a lot, would tell you there's 6,000 professional criminals. You got to take them off the street to protect the other 7.5 million people.
And you think he's the man that'll do that? He shows the most leadership.
I do. I think he will do that. But I also remember, this because you're a New Yorker. He's got to go up against the city council.
Yeah. And he's got to talk more about some of the issues.
If you want to be kind to Kathy Hochul, you'll say, wow. She's got a hard left legislature that she's dealing with. Okay. And if you want to be kind to Eric Adams, like, there's a lot of things that he'd like to do in the city that he hasn't been able to get done because of the hard left legislature. And we're not talking about this anymore, but we lost 100,000 jobs in Long Island City. Amazon is flourishing in Virginia.
He wanted that. I know.
He wanted that. So did de Blasio. De Blasio wanted that.
So let's talk about the anti-Semitism on these campuses. I know that Andrew will be all over that, and I know that he's a big proponent to helping the Jews. So is Eric Adams. But, schools like Harvard, that's your alma mater. Yeah. What happened there? Well, why are they turning down this $2.5 billion in federal funding, and who is they?
Well, I think you should read the email that was sent to them and go through the entire list of things. Even many people on the right, even pro-Zionists, looked at the list. I would say of the 17 or 18 things that are on the list, probably 8 or 9 of them are actually illegal and not constitutional. And I think Harvard had to make a decision. Remember, it was an omnibus list that they had to look at. So they had to make a decision. Say, okay, this is not even legal. The result is we'll probably win a court case against the administration, and we have to push back on this. If you're saying to me that Harvard has been too lenient on Hamas protesters or Tufts or Columbia has been too lenient. I wholeheartedly agree. These are private pieces of property. These are private institutions. You enter that private property. Most of these protesters, as you and I both know, are professionals. It's not some 18-year-old kid waving a Palestinian flag,
yes,
cheering for terrorists. They have organized people. The mayor's chief of police, his deputy police commissioner, was on Morning Joe with me one morning.
The Taylor guy, Richard Taylor?
Yeah, and he showed me the chain. He brought the chain with him that they used to close off a part of a academic office building. And he said, this chain is a military grade chain.
Wow.
There's no 20-year-old kid at Columbia that's buying this chain. This chain is a military piece of equipment, and these are organized protests.
Organized by who?
Unfortunately, insurgent groups of people in the United States that want to create political havoc, that want paid protesters, people who want to create dissension and division and want to scare Jews. Anti-Semites, professional anti-Semites that want to scare Jews. And so Columbia, Harvard, my alma mater, Tufts, should be saying, hey, this is private property. You want to do a protest like this, go into Central Park, that is public property, and let the mayor of New York deal with it, and let the city's police department deal with it. This is my private property. This is a private university. Get the hell off my campus. Okay, but I will say this to you, again, the administration, the Trump administration is right about the combat of anti-Semitism, but then they drop a list that is ridiculous.
Do you think
Okay, and so you can't, it's the same thing doing with the tariffs. You're right. We don't want countries to take advantage of us. We have to create a fairer trading system. Don't blow up the global trading system. Let's fix it. You're right. We have to stop anti-Semitism, but you can't put this list of demands on the university. You're taking away their constitutional rights.
Do you think Donald Trump is using situations like the tariffs and congestion pricing and anti-Semitism, and even the law firms, as a way to take back control from the states?
I don't know. Is that the argument at WABC? I don't know. I mean,
I'm just asking you what your opinion is.
I would like. Listen, I try to watch Fox because they think he's a 4D chess player and he's a grandmaster strategist. And this plan of capitulation on the tariffs was 19D chess and 26 moves ahead. I don't believe that. I think he's in the corner in the Oval Office eating the chess pieces. I don't think he's a 3D chess player. That's just me. So I don't think it's that. I think it's about control. I think it's about the culture war. I think he is a phenomenal culture warrior. He's like Napoleon of the culture war. And I think the Democrats are incomplete. The best thing Trump has going for him, frankly, are the Democrats. I've never seen a group of more disorganized, internecine fighting, Keystone Cop sort of a people. They're fighting about pronoun usage. They're fighting about who could be more socialist than the other person. The policy's not working, Suzanne, because it's just not pure communism enough. Let's make it even more pure communism. I mean, Americans don't want that. And Donald Trump got the middle because they don't like the culture war. There were women in this country. 46% of the women voted for Donald Trump. 54% of the women that are white, identify as white, voted for Donald Trump. Why? Well, when they asked in the exit polls, I voted for my son. I voted for my brother. I voted for my husband. I don't want him canceled. I don't want him to say, oh, Suzanne, you have a nice outfit on. Okay, you're canceled. Canceled. It's over for you. Okay, you didn't say they, them, he, she, we to the person. You're canceled. Okay, well, people don't like that. I'm just being honest with you. They don't like it. So Donald Trump understood that. The left didn't. AOC is smarter than people give her credit for, though. She went out and said, hey, why'd you vote for Trump and me? They told her. She dropped her pronoun designation from her Twitter feed.
What do you think of Schumer? What do you think of Schumer and the whole AOC thing?
I think if you're 75 years old and you've been in politics for 45 years, hang up your cleats is what I think. Okay. And I would say that to Trump. I would say that to Biden. I would say this guy, Chuck Grassley, I think he was like George Washington's great grandfather. Right? He's been around for like 700 years. I mean, come on.
This is the clip we're putting in the taxis, just so you know.
All right, well, I'm a New Yorker. That's what it should be. It should be that. But I mean, come on, get off the playing field. Make room for younger, energetic people that maybe have good, fresh, new ideas. You know, I don't dislike Senator Schumer. I was at Good Night and Good Luck with George Clooney on Saturday night. So Schumer was sitting in the theater with me. He's a lovely guy. His wife's lovely. But I think it's enough. You're past your sell-by date. Trump is past the sell-by date. It's enough.
I'm gonna end this with everybody loves to hear your investment ideas. So we know how you feel about crypto. I do want you to tell our audience about what you feel about right now the stock market, the banks, real estate, and of course crypto. So let's start with the banks. Would you keep your money in the bank?
Yeah, I think the banks are safe. I mean, the banks are well capitalized at this moment. I think they're quite safe. I like, obviously, Bitcoin. I've talked to John Catsimatidis about Bitcoin and others. I've been a Bitcoin investor for the last 5 years, and I think it's still very, very early for Bitcoin.
What do you think it's going to? What's your prediction?
Well, I think it'll be at $200,000 by the end of this year. It's trading at $93,000 now, and so I think I think it gets there, you know, not without bumps though. It is a volatile thing to own, but I think if you're holding it, I think you're going to be well rewarded and very happy. I am a Mag 7 buyer, even though the Mag 7 has been very weak right now. That would include the Googles and Netflixes, Amazon, Nvidia, et cetera. I think those companies will have regained traction by the end of the year. Well, yeah, I'm bullish. You know, the system has fought back. Donald Trump wanted to declare a global trade war, and the system has said sorry. Jerome Powell held his ground.
Yep.
The Supreme Court said, hey, you can't deport people without due process. You know, I have no problem with the deporting the people, no problem. But you got to have due process, because when they're coming for your family, and they tell me that your relative is an MS-13 member, and we know that the person isn't, you got to be able to go to a court and be able to explain.
You don't know that the person is or isn't. You can't say that.
You just have, listen, the kid that they sent to El Salvador, he may be an MS-13 member. I'm not saying that he isn't. I don't think he's a Maryland dad and all the stupid stuff that the left says, but I believe in due process, and I do believe in the inalienable human rights of a great country like this. Bring him back, give him his due process, and then deport him. That's all. Why do we gotta deport him without the due process? It's just stupid to me.
I couldn't agree with you more. This is
because I'm Donald Trump. I got to prove to you that I got more muscle than you, and I'm going to subvert the Constitution. No, your family, my family, even the Trump family, has benefited from the decentralized power structure of the country. It's empowered us with great freedoms and great human rights. I don't want to cede that to any one man, because let me tell you something. Trump may be doing the right thing, deporting that guy. Maybe a Democrat comes in next time and deports the wrong person for the wrong reason. I don't know.
Like a Jew.
Like a Jew. Why don't you give the people due process?
Yes.
Okay, in fairness, your country needs you to speak up, Suzanne. You got a great voice. And also your family needs you to speak up.
I do.
My family got here with nothing. And they came here, and yes, they were discriminated against, but they were endowed with basic human rights and basic freedoms. Okay, and that protects all of us when we have that. What did Franklin say? I would rather have 100 guilty people go free than one person incarcerated unfairly. We have to protect the innocent, even if we lose some of the guilty.
Well, I think this is, we all love the United States of America. Thank you for being 100%. A native New Yorker and not giving up on New York like me.
Never.
Not giving up on New York, not giving up on the United States. I'm not leaving. I'm not going to Portugal like everybody else with their golden visas. Can't do it. I'm here, die hard. And we're going to keep this going and get the word out. And we love this country. And thank you for coming on the Miller Report.
And I appreciate you inviting me back. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony.
All right, Suze. You're great. I love you, Suze. Thank you.
You're the best. Thank
See
you
you soon.
Bye.